Welcome to the Sharing the Faith podcast, where every other week we explore the beauty and power of faith in Jesus Christ, the light of the world. Now here is your host, Dr. Tom Neal.
Well, hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me again for another episode of Sharing the Faith. I'm Dr. Tom Neal. I work in the Diocese of Pensacola-Tallahassee, and this show is a production of the Diocese. Today, I am really pleased to welcome again for a second time as a guest, Father David Kelly, who's coming to us from Chicago today. Father Kelly, thank you for joining me.
Oh, you're welcome. Nice to be here.
So Father Kelly originally came from the Archdiocese of Boston, was a diocesan priest, and then eventually discerned a calling to missionary work with the Maryknoll Fathers. So Father, could you just tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I was ordained in 1957, and I was assigned to Arlington, Massachusetts, St. Camilla's Church in Arlington. And so then I was, my first 2 years were there in that parish. And then I got the chance through the Archbishop, Cardinal Archbishop, to go to Latin America with a priest from Oregon, and he was working in Peru. So he allowed 15 of us to go to Lima or to Peru. And so what happened was that when he found out that there were 15 young diocesan priests in his diocese who wanted to go to Peru, he said, well, I can start my own society. So he did. So he called it the Society of St. James. And it's under that title that I first went to Latin America as a member of the first group that went to Peru. We went to Peru and Bolivia in those days, and eventually went to Ecuador. So I served about a year and a half in Peru, and I found that that's what I want to do for the rest of my life.
Wow.
So I asked the Cardinal if I could do it, and he said no. And then the priest who was in charge of the St. James Society for us was a Monsignor Sweeney. So I told him that I wanted to go to join Maryknoll, and he said, well, and I said, the Cardinal won't let me. So he said, well, try again. So I did. I tried again, and again, he said no. So I told Monsignor Sweeney, he told me no. So Monsignor Sweeney said, well, ask him again. So I did. I asked him again, and then he let me go. So that's how I joined Maryknoll, and Maryknoll was glad to receive me and sent me to Guatemala. So I was in Guatemala for maybe about 15 years, and I did various works there. I was in a parish. I was a pastor in Todos Santos, which is in Huehuetenango, northwest of Guatemala City. And so I was there for about 2 years, and then they sent me to Guatemala City, and I was working there in Guatemala City. So I had that experience with Maryknoll, and then eventually again in Huehuetenango they asked me to take charge of the language school, so I did. And in that position also, then they asked me to be in the coordinator of planning, pastoral planning for Latin America with the Maryknoll Fathers. So I did that for a while. So as time went on, then I also was asked what I thought with Maryknoll was I felt that we had to do more theological reflection because we were using the social sciences too much. And we had to really look into theology itself in order to in other words, revelation. What is revelation? What is God teaching us? What is God asking us to do? So that's the way. So I went to Louvain's and got a doctorate, and then went back to Latin America, and I was there for a few years, and then they asked me to go to teach at the seminary in New York. So I was there for about 4 or 5 years. So that's my history with Maryknoll, and eventually they sent me here to Latin, not to Chicago, but to El Salvador, because they needed a moral professor. So I had been studying moral theology at Louvain, and that was the nearest I could get to theology and the pastoral work. Was that the church's teaching in moral theology?
Yes.
So I went to San Salvador, and there they had me teaching moral theology in Spanish to the students, the future priests in El Salvador, San Salvador, the Archdiocese of San Salvador, and also other dioceses in El Salvador. All the bishops were sending their seminarians to San Salvador, to the Archdiocesan Seminary in San Salvador. So I was there for quite a while in my life, and maybe almost 20 years there, and found that that's what I was doing was important. So then after that, after that I retired and went to El Paso for a while, and in El Paso, then from there, they asked me to one of the Archbishop of New Orleans was my friend in the seminary in Boston, so they needed a moral theologian in the seminary, the diocesan seminary in New Orleans, and so I took that job for 12 years, I guess it was 12 or 13 years. Was very happy doing that. And then Maryknoll asked me to come here to Chicago to accompany the formation process. So that's a kind of a brief summary of my experience. So
Thank you. That's really actually that's helpful for me to hear. I don't think I've ever heard the whole story, Father, from the beginning to the present in that way before. And that friend of yours, Archbishop Alfred Hughes, you've had a friendship now for, I mean, how many years have you been friends now? My goodness.
well, 67 years, I guess.
67 years.
Yeah, he's
Incredible.
he's retired in New Orleans, as we say. And so yeah, but then so anyway, that's I was in Notre Dame Seminary. It's called Notre Dame Seminary. They always ask us about our football team, but we don't have a football team.
That's right. That's right. So, Father Kelly, I'd love one of the things you've taught, as you indicated, your degree in moral theology and all the time you spent teaching that, among other things, and especially Catholic social teaching, the unique way that moral theology is applied to social contexts, political contexts, economic, and so on. And Pope Leo's recent apostolic exhortation, Dilexite, which is on the church's teaching on the poor and on poverty and how that relates to the work of evangelization and the gospel and so on, kind of takes up a theme the church obviously has always had at the center of it, which is the place of the poor and the meaning of poverty and what that presents as far as how the challenge of the gospel that Jesus himself, who became poor, makes us see poverty in a new light. So maybe just some initial thoughts on what is the teaching of the gospel and of the church and Catholic social teaching on why reflecting on poverty itself is so important.
Well, basically, some of the moral values that are in all of the teachings, the social teachings of the church, are based upon three basic moral concepts. There's freedom, and there's justice, and there's love, of course. So those are some of the freedom, the justice, the love, And I guess that's it. But those basic moral values are expressed in all of the teachings of the church in social matters. So why am I quoting that? Well, because when we're talking about the poor, we're not just talking about economic poor. I mean, that's there, of course, but the economic poor, it comes accompanied with moral values or moral disvalues. So that is a problem, because here in the United States, we have a dominant moral theology, you might say, not on the part of the Catholic Church, but on the part of our educational system, that the ethical values are none. In other words, here in the United States, there's no agreement on basic values. And there's a teaching in the social sciences that there is no value, there is no morality. In other words, there's no agreed upon moral values, despite the fact that our civil code is based upon the Ten Commandments here in America. And nobody's talking about that. But that's basically what holds up the moral system in our society. Basically, I say, because right now, that's one of the things that I see as a big change for America, is the change that there is no moral teaching. It's all relativism. Everybody does what they want. Well, the trouble with that is that, as John Paul II and Benedict, every time they came to the United States, they said to the people, one of the main problems that we have in the country is a lack of agreement on moral values.
Mm-hmm.
And so they don't believe in moral values, in basic moral values that are common to everybody. And they told the people, they keep telling the people, without a moral system agreed upon by all, you can't have a democracy. So in my mind,
Yes.
this is the greatest poverty we have. And it's not just the poor. It's in our educational system, it's just relativism. That's all. You do what you want. Well, John Paul II and Benedict were right. You're not going to have a democracy. You have to have a dictatorship. And so, because you can't just let everybody do what they want. There has to be an agreed upon law that everybody believes in and practices. Do not kill, do not steal, do not lie. These have to be basic moral truths. In order to talk about poverty, then, you have to have some kind of an agreed upon moral system. And unfortunately, the moral system we have now is money. Make more money. That is not enough to respond to what the church teaches on freedom, justice.
Yes.
These are values that are important. They're moral values that have, for example, freedom. We should congratulate ourselves that we are a free country. Well, what does that mean in relation to the value of freedom? Who has the freedom? And, do the poor people have freedom? And many times they don't. They have no freedom. They just have to slip in where they can, And but anyway, that's one of the things I feel, that with delexite, I think maybe this is a step forward in that direction for our country if they maybe take this encyclical and take it as a solution to our situation of a lack of agreed upon morality.
Yes.
So people feel in this country that if you have a moral system, that's a dictatorship. Well, it isn't a dictatorship. It's basically the founders of our country realized that, and so I mean they basically they had a country based upon the Ten Commandments. So that's and they never mentioned that right away, and but that is today even the basis of our civil code. Now they're changing the civil code. Okay, but what are they changing it to? Are they changing it to a relativism? See, for the relativist, everything is relative. You can change anything according to your basic belief system. So I mean, I hate to bring that up, but that to me, every time I teach the social teaching of the church, that I try to help my students understand what the moral system behind the social doctrine is. It's love of neighbor, love of God. And so we celebrate, Christmas and the resurrection, Easter Sunday, and as civil holiday feasts, so to say. But they don't have any influence on our moral system.
No.
Especially, with the encyclical, he's bringing out the fact that Jesus did not only teach the poverty, he lived it.
Mm.
He was crucified, like a criminal.
Yes.
And that's an injustice. We hope that will not happen in America, that somebody will be crucified because they don't do what the authority says, or they want to, as they did in the system that crucified Jesus. It was a lie. It was an injustice, and it was clearly the injustice of the political system at the time, plus human greed, and and I think that this has to be. I think one of my suggestions is to our people, we have to help them see the connection between assistance and love, or openness for the poor, to connect that moral statement to the virtues. For example, justice. For example, just for the poor, and let's make it. Let's try to translate the moral code of the social teaching. Translate that to a moral system, which of course one of the best moral systems is the social teaching of the church, because it's not the social teaching of the church is not pushing the Catholic Church. It's going after the freedom and justice, love, and so those are the values that it wants practiced. What's wrong with love? Huh? I mean, and what's wrong with justice?
Yes.
Nothing. Justice is not dictatorship. Justice is a belief in common values that respect the dignity of the human person. So these are every one of the moral teachings of the church is based upon the the dignity of the human person. If you don't accept the dignity of the human person, you can't live by any moral value. That's one of the first basic teachings of the church, that the economy, the politics, the social sciences, in a sense, have to have some kind of a common agreed upon values in order to, for example, the truth. We can't be lying and cheating to have a social teaching of the church. There has to be a basic, and so that's why the social teaching of the church is very important. One of the books that I relied on in all my courses was called the Compendium of the Social Teaching of the Church. And it's a big volume, but it contains all the moral truths that are in the social teaching of the church.
Yes.
And to me, that something like that, our people have to hear that and see it. I'm sure it's very difficult to preach in the church the social teaching qua mem. I mean, as it is, because it might go over the heads of the people sometimes.
Sure.
Or the time element. We can't do that. So I think we have to establish an alleyway or an open door to where the people can see and understand the social teaching of the church and see what it teaches. It's not just trying to impose the Catholic religion on other people. It's not that.
Yes.
Based upon love for the human person, the dignity of the human person. That's the basic moral value in all the teachings of the church. So if you take that basic moral value, see that's the people that are poor are suffering many times because they're not treated as people and not treated as human as human beings.
Yes.
For the Catholic Church, the human being is based upon the dignity of every human being, without regard to race, religion, belief, or whatever. Being a human being, as far as the church goes, has to be based in a good way by the society which has people in it. The basic value, moral value, is to respect the human dignity of the man and woman. So, and how do you do that? Well, like I say, I think the social teaching of the church is a possible option, But at this point, it's only regarded as religion, and so people are saying you can't impose religion on other people. Well, that's like saying you can't impose the teaching of respect for the human person. What do you mean you can't? That's what we live.
It is.
We're doing it already, in part. We're not doing it for everybody. But that's what I see, is the absence of what I call moral truth. Not me. It's not me. It's the church. We have to have moral truth in order to help the human being. And that's what I say was, if we're going to help the poor, it just can't be money.
Yes.
It has to be a basic respect for the dignity of the human person.
Yes.
That includes everybody.
And and Father, I appreciate so much, and I always have, your analysis, as you just said, doesn't jump to the economic solutions or social analysis. It jumps to the foundational sense of what who is the human person? What is the truth of the human person? And then how does one achieve human flourishing in light of that truth? What does that look like? And you and I recently were exchanging about the question of immigration. And one of the things that you brought up was that in the United States, as compared to Latin America, when you were down there, the sense of what we call the common good in our Catholic moral tradition, the common good, those shared aspects of achieving the good together, the ways and means that we achieve that are shared, and what's called the universal destination of goods, that all things that we possess as individuals are always relative to the common good of others. So maybe you could talk about that in terms of poverty and the question of poverty, how the Catholic teaching on the common good and the universal destination of goods fits into an American context in our culture.
Yes, well, I think our basic democratic constitution and our government's basic, Declaration of Independence, those documents reflect the dignity of the human person. And the fact that we do accept the Constitution, we do accept the Declaration of Independence, but today there seems to be movements that want to eliminate that the Constitution. They want to get rid of it, and also the Declaration of Independence. And I feel that those steps to eliminate that is for a form of dictatorship. Because when you have a common good, for everybody, then that's when you have a government that's for the people, with the people, and in the people, and which our government is now doing. And I what I'm saying, I think I want them to keep on doing that.
Yes.
To our politicians, that if they have political theories, then I hope that those political theories respect the common good, and not just the individual. See, this is why concentration on the individual only is not a happy solution for our situation. We have to look toward those values and try to promote these common values that do make up the common good. You see, the common good is a moral moral value, and so that's what the human being for the Catholic Church, the human person, his dignity or her dignity is based upon the fact that they were made in the image and likeness of God. You see, that's basically what is the basis of the common good.
Yes.
We believe that the human being was made to attain the good and to look for love in their life,
Mm-hmm.
And basically that's what our country now, freedom, justice, good, and love and charity, these are values that I can find right now in our country, but they're not being strengthened. They're not being taught in our schools.
Mm-hmm.
And that, to me, is very unfortunate, because if we want to have respect for our flag, and the flag means that we have a common good. The flag. If the flag represents all those values. We had 2 wars in which our American youth died to defend our country. And, we can't forget that the basis of their death was because of the common good, the common good of saving America.
Yes.
And I know all our people in our country, they don't want any more wars. Why? because the wars destroy human dignity. That's why they go against the value, the common value of the human being. You see, that's the thing. When you talk about a common good, you have to talk about something that's common. It's not just said or think about. We don't just think about common good. It has to be practiced. And I, like I say, I think the common good. If we agree on the common good, that's the nearest I can think of the moral values that we need to basis to keep our country a country of democracy. But we don't. Nobody ever talks about the common good, and it's
Yes.
very simple. Common good is the good of everybody. And what kind of good? That's not economic good. It's not, just political good. It's moral good, which is the
Yeah.
dignity of the human person. So everybody has to be. That's the common good is where everybody is respected as a human being.
Yes.
So when you kill a person in this country, then that's wrong, and it always will be wrong because it's not. It doesn't favor the common good.
Yes.
The common good is built upon the fact that is eventually is love, not just sexual love, but rather the social love that which the human being is worthy of. So anyway, I guess what I'd say,
Yes.
if I want something for the poor, I want them to be respected as human persons,
Mm.
and who need protection and need also our love. And so that to me is the common good, and the nearest common, our concrete expression of the common good to me are the Ten Commandments and the virtues, all the virtues. And
Yes.
I think we have to help us, our young, understand what the virtues are and why they are virtues. But again, I don't. I would want to encourage that kind of thinking.
Yes. Father, maybe as a kind of final bringing together of these reflections on virtue, the common good, justice, love, and so on, talk about your experience. You mentioned it a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about immigration, about your experience in Latin America, of the experience of what common good means there is very different from the American context. What did you learn there in your time in Latin America about the way that the common good is lived there that could teach American culture something important?
Well, I find that basically in Latin America, you have a Christian basis in moral truths. They do respect those moral values. And I think that they realize when those moral values are not being respected. And but they have no way of protecting themselves if somebody wants to take those away. And so I feel that one of the things that I see the difference is, at least we have here in this country protection for people who who are citizens. They have certain rights, and so, but not that they don't have them in Latin America, but many times they're not respected for everybody. It's
Yes.
those values are not for everybody, uh, and but again, I can't say that they're dissolute and irresolute without values. They aren't. They very definitely, in my experience, they have the Ten Commandments. They know them, and and they practice them. But sometimes, like I say, uh, the actual reality is different. That not everybody seems to agree on that, on those values.
Yes.
But I think the basic values they have are Christian values, and I see that as an advantage for, them at least having the right to be citizens of their country. But the system, like I say, the analysis that I think is at present time, and that's being respected, is unfair, and it has a lack of justice in it. In other words, we don't have an international moral code that everybody agrees on. I think in theory we might have it, but in practice we don't have it. And I think in Latin America, that's one of the reasons we have immigration in this country. There are many reasons why we have it, but I think the basic reasons that I see are the fact that they can't find a job, and when they do find a job, the pay is not sufficient for them to exist, and so. And the other thing is that in the overpopulation many times is a problem. What is true is not true for everybody, and
Right.
so the moral good is not available for everybody. Let me put it that way, and that takes it out of the realm of politicians. I mean, and economics. But the poverty that Pope Leo is talking about, I presume it's economic poverty.
Mm-hmm.
But there are different meanings of poverty.
Yes.
But the common good, if you take away the common good, you've taken away a very important part of what we need to have.
Yes.
Because in this country, I think we do have respect for the common good, and to know what that is, the good of everybody. And that includes the poor. And I think our country will respond to that. But I really feel that that's one of the teachings we have to give to our people is what is the common good? What is it? And to me, the basic value of the common good is that everybody respects the dignity of the human person.
Yes.
That to me is the common good. And I think we need that. We need that in our country. And we need to have some agreement on it.
Yes.
But every time we bring it up, there are those who are against religion, and they feel that they're saying that we're imposing that on everybody. But we're not imposing. They were made in the image and likeness of God, whether they like it or not.
Mm.
They could say they weren't created by God, but they were. And in one way or another, that belief, that dogmatic belief, has a moral level to it, a moral moral values to it. So, in other words, the economic and the political have to be promoting the common good,
Yes.
and not, because they don't know what the common good is.
They don't know what it is.
They think everybody has the same amount of money, but that's not a common good.
No, and I think that's the great gift that Catholic social teaching has to offer to this kind of conversation, in this case about poverty, which is the moral underpinnings of all of it. If you don't address the moral underpinnings, that anything else you try to do to solve it becomes coercive or will ultimately fail, won't bring about the transformation that you're looking for. So it's really helpful the way that you approach that, Father. And I know Veritatis Splendor, which is the encyclical that Pope St. John Paul II wrote on moral truth as grounding for any sense of goodness and authentic love, is key to your own understanding of all of this and really shaped your way of thinking about it. And I'm grateful today for you bringing that here.
Yeah, thank you. Well, thank God for teaching me that.
Truly. Well, thank you, Father David Kelly. Thank you so much for joining me today for this conversation about the question of poverty, the common good. And thank you so much for your endless service, literally never ceasing to the church up in Chicago now. We miss you down south.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, congratulations to you, Tom, always for being the Catholic you are,
Thank you.
Very intelligent and in a position where you can change people's lives.
Thank you, Father Kelly. Well, pray for that, please. And it's been a pleasure as always, and I'll look forward hopefully to another conversation. I'm glad we were able to work out the technology today.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining me for another edition of Sharing the Faith. This has been a production of the Diocese of Pensacola-Tallahassee. I'm Dr. Tom Neal. Please join me again in 2 weeks for another episode. And until then, may the Lord bless you abundantly.
Thank you for tuning in today to the Sharing the Faith podcast. If you would like to learn more about the podcast, visit ptdiocese.org/sharingthefaith. If you listen to the audio version through an app such as Apple Podcast, Spotify, or iHeartRadio, be sure to rate, review, and comment. If you watched on YouTube, be sure to like and subscribe or leave a comment on the episode. Thank you for listening.